let's go straight to David Mencer, spokesperson for the Israeli government. David, thank you very much indeed for joining me on the programme. And the headlines today, hostages out as truce holds. We could see yesterday how immensely fragile and delicate the situation is. Can you talk us through what's going on so far?
Thanks for having me, Vanessa. For Israelis, I don't think there was a dry eye in the entire country yesterday as we welcomed home three of Israel's precious daughters back to their families. The most remarkable scenes in this country. You know, we as a country, and I know that you'll understand this, have been collectively holding our breath. We just didn't know the condition of these three girls, particularly Emily Damari, who is also a Brit, a Spurs fan. But the scene of them coming home, being embraced by their families, receiving medical care, and being alive is the most remarkable thing in this country. All of us are still reeling from that incredible feeling.
And it was incredibly touching. It was it seemed to be a triumph of hope and prayer over what seemed to be the most appalling, fateful decree on the lives of those girls. It has been extraordinary to behold, and Emily Damari's mother particularly, absolutely inspirational, remarkable person. But there is a faction within Israel itself, and possibly much larger in the rest of the world, saying, you know, had Benjamin Netanyahu had the will to do so, these young ladies could have been released months ago, even over a year ago.
So the people that were in the room in those negotiations, Vanessa, who were best placed to make that judgment, have all said the same thing to a person. And the American Secretary of State said this himself. He said that Hamas were dragging their feet every single time. And what made Hamas change their mind? I'll tell you what it was. It was their own leadership being eviscerated, their rockets and missiles having been destroyed, and Iran, their patron, of course, having been pushed back into their box with their own ballistic missile system having been greatly damaged. We've also damaged their nuclear program. And also Hezbollah as well, roundly defeated with their leadership also wiped out. Hamas had nowhere to go. The cavalry weren't coming, so they had no place to go but to sue for a deal. And that's what they did. We hope this deal holds. It's in all of our interest that this holds. We've got 94 of our precious people. We have a humanitarian duty as the state of Israel to look after our people, to bring them home. Every life is precious, but obviously to Israel, every Israeli life is precious, and we have a responsibility to bring them all home. Not one will be left behind, Vanessa.
What do you say to the various experts I spoke to on my program on LBC yesterday, all of whom attested to the fact that it was Donald Trump and his ascendancy to the presidency that was the catalyst for the drawing up of this ceasefire, and that it was pressure from him really on Benjamin Netanyahu that was the difference maker?
There's no doubt that President Trump has made a difference into these negotiations. Together with President Biden, outgoing President Biden, we're as a country we're very grateful to both the Republicans and the Democrats for their support for Israel, because it is of course a cross-party issue. No doubt President Trump's forthright opinions did make a difference, but ultimately it was Hamas who were dragging their feet, Hamas who said no. And of course, Vanessa, in all of this, sometimes we lose the fact, Hamas took these people hostage, Hamas kept them hostage, Hamas could have let them go, they chose not to. They chose this point because they've got nowhere left to turn. There's 94 of them still in Hamas captivity. We will not rest until all of them are home.
And one of the most chilling vistas yesterday, before we scrolled forward to the bit that everyone was waiting and praying for, was that convoy of Hamas terrorists, balaclavaed, faces hidden, guns to the fore, on the roof of, shaking the vehicle in which the three female hostages were being driven towards the Red Cross. And it was absolutely terrifying, that moment. Everything hung in the balance. Nobody knew what was going to happen, whether they might even, heaven forbid, be shot as they were walking towards the Red Cross. Nobody knew. But what did you see that show of, whatever it was meant to be? What was it meant to convey to the world?
Plainly, it was a show, exactly as you said, Vanessa, but when you zoom out from that scene, it was a carefully orchestrated show by Hamas to show them still in power, still in control. The fact is they're not. They are a vastly depleted force. They're nothing like what they were on October the 7th, 2023, and they have been roundly defeated. But it shows that they still exist. And make no mistake, we want this ceasefire to endure, and there are sequential measures which need to take place so that it does endure, including returning our people. But the government's objective remains the same. Yes, number one is to bring all of our hostages home, but ultimately, for the good of Gazans, Hamas cannot remain in power in Gaza.
David Mencer, thank you very much indeed. David Mencer, their spokesperson for the Israeli government.